Hey guys, don't get freaked out. I forgot to do the little camera flippy thing that's going to reverse the angle, so it looks like I'm driving on the wrong side of the world, but I'm not, so get over it. In any case, I'm in the middle of running my afternoon errands, and I figured we would say hey. First off, no hoodie today. I'm wearing a Dysfunctional Veterans t-shirt that I got as a gift from another veteran, and I'm just incredibly pleased with the shirt and the whole thing. It was very nice of them to think of me, and I really appreciated it. It's an interesting thing, both to not be wearing a hoodie. I usually really do like them. I have lightweight ones for the summer, and I don't know whether I'm going to be doing more t-shirts or not. We'll see. I don't know. Life is changing. I can change my style a little bit. Maybe not. Other than that, wow, what an interesting weekend. So as you recall from our last vlog on Friday, I was really jazzed about some of the people I know, and I'm not going to go into too much detail yet, but here's sort of where we are. So we had been talking, you and I have been talking for months now, about when the weather got nicer. I was planning on doing some stuff on Production Dojo, which is all around the behind the scenes of what you would think of as a journeyman maker. So I do robotics and fabrication and code and servers, and I sort of go I bridge everything from virtual cloud software all the way through physical object manufacturing and tying that stack of technologies together. And I was planning on doing some projects just sort of my own for Production Dojo, because most of the time when I work for a client, the client is basically I'm on a non-disclosure, so I can't really talk about my involvement in those projects. And it looks like, thanks to some incredibly cool people who I'm lucky enough to be working with, I'm going to be able to do some fairly high-profile projects over the next couple of months that both will be very high-profile for the people I'm building them for and with, along with some of the other people who at Production Dojo, but that we will also be free to talk about them with you guys, that I will be able to put up the behind the scenes video and sort of do that more as a partnership than just as sort of the guy you never see who can never talk about my involvement. So I'm really stoked about the opportunity to show you guys how I would build something that actually is to solve a real world problem for a brand and a client, as opposed to just sort of inventing something for the sake of doing the tutorial. I'm deeply thrilled by the opportunity that presents. Now, over the weekend, I was going to be spending the weekend sort of drawing up plans for the first project, but I wound up doing some server maintenance, not on a server of mine, but it was an interesting reminder in how architecture has changed for software over the last 8 years or so. The particular server setup that I was maintaining is running some software from that has its architectural roots from a while back, and as a result it runs on what we would now call monolithic servers. In other words, they're virtual servers that are like a real server. They have an allocated amount of memory, they have an allocated amount of disks, they have some CPU resources dedicated to them, they run an operating system of their own, and it's basically a physical server. It just happens to be virtualized. Now, there's a lot of advantages to virtualizing the physical server, but a truly software that I would sit down and write tomorrow would not be based on the concept of a monolithic server at all. And in fact, the software doesn't care particularly what it's running on. So instead of adding capacity by making the server itself bigger or adding another server with its own copy of the operating system, The really modern way of doing things is to add software that runs in very tiny little nodes, and then as you need more capacity, you just swarm these nodes. And whereas adding a virtual server, depending on the environment and whatever, can take minutes to, a couple minutes to 15 or 20 minutes, depending on how your hypervisor and your disk stuff is set up. Whereas, these little swarm node, a truly elastic capacity setup, I could go to almost infinite capacity in seconds. And once I'm done with that capacity, you bring it down and you're done with it in seconds and not paying for it. Whereas because of the cost of spinning up a virtual server, you don't have a tendency to bring it up and kill it. You tend to bring them up when you can and leave them up for as long as you can. So it was interesting to be applying as much modern tools as I can to sort of mitigate the capacity concerns of this, in its own way, very legacy architecture. The software is maintained and patched, so the software is modern in its own way. It's just the vendor that makes it has decided to stay on a legacy architecture. So it's really interesting to be having a chance to use sort of all of my experience that way. My experience managing that sort of old school legacy server environment, and then my experience these days in hyper modern cloud environments, and using that to use the cloud environments as much as possible to sort of manage or fill in the gaps in the traditional architecture. Who knows, with any luck at all, eventually we'll be able to move their needs away from that sort of legacy architecture in its entirety. But until then, we are now in a much better place capacity-wise, and it was fun to be able to flex all that skill set. There's not a ton of people around still who have a real-world experience across all that stack, and I'm one of them, and I really dig that about me. All right, folks, I am almost where I need to go, so that's kind of the update. I understand that there's not a lot there other than look how cool my life is, but I gotta tell you, man, this is shaping up to be an awesome summer. I hope you guys are looking forward to it as much as I am, and I think we are going to be in a far different place 3 months from now even than we are now, and I'm looking forward to it. You guys have a good day.